Good morning and happy Tuesday. Today we are going to kind of learn the last thing about right triangles. Actually, we'll spend a few days practicing, but today's really learning the last thing before we're really honestly done with this unit. It's pretty short. So what we focused on last week and the week prior was finding sides. Okay. So today we're going to focus on finding angles. So kind of the opposite of what we have done so far. So when you're using right triangle trig, you're looking for two things. You're either going to be finding sides or you're going to be finding angles. Okay. So far we have learned how to do this very well, where we're either multiplying or dividing in the calculator and we're setting up our SOHCAHTOA. Today we're going to learn how to find an angle. When we set up our equation and we type things into the calculator, the angle is always what comes after the trig function, and then the ratio of the sides. Remember, ratio is just a fancy word for fraction. So here sine is the O over the H. So this would be dividing the opposite side over the hypotenuse side to get approximately 0.73. Okay, so everybody needs their calculator. If you do not have your calculator, you need to go to Desmos. I'm going to show you how to do Desmos, but then I'm also I have my handheld calculator here, so I'll show you or write down. I won't show you, but I'm going to write down how you should be typing it in your handheld calculator. Now, if you have a Casio, I don't have a Casio, I have the TI. So we may have to YouTube that to look it up, or you can text me separately and I can show you how to use it, but I bet you can figure it out pretty quickly. Okay, so these types of problems we've already learned how to do. If you're doing those types of problems, you're literally just going to type it in like you see it. So we're going to type in sine and then 59. There's no difficulty to that. So I'm going to go sine, sine and 59. And then just make sure your calculator is in degree mode instead of radian mode. Okay? And so then there's your answer. That would be the two sides divided, the opposite and the hypotenuse. So 0.857. So that's going to be 0.86. Okay? What we're going to do over the next bit of time is we're going to round sides to the 100th, and we're going to round angles to the nearest whole number. Okay, now do y'all see how this is opposite of what we just did? So what you're looking for right here is you're looking for an angle. Okay, I'm giving you the ratio of the sides, so this is how we need to type in into the calculator a little differently. So we're not going to immediately hit the cosine button. We are going to first hit the second button, and then we're going to hit the cosine button. Okay, now on Desmos, it's not second. Like in your handheld calculator, that's what it would be. Hit the second button and then cosine. And then in the Desmos calculator, if you go over here to the function, see how I went from main to function? We're going to do that, except for I think it was cosine. I've already forgotten. Sorry. Cosine, yeah. All right, so we're going to go to cosine. Like so. All right, so you see how it has a little -1? That tells you it's the inverse, which means we're going to find an angle. So you should have this. And then we have to type in what the approximation is, so 0.33. All right, so let's type that in. I'm going to go back to main and then type in 0.33. Close parentheses and hit enter. Okay, so you see it's 70.7. So 70.7 is going to round up to 71 degrees. Okay, so when we're looking for sides, we're going to be typing it in, pretty like we're used to, I guess you could say. If we're finding an angle, we have to hit that second button first to make it do the inverse, which is that little -1. Okay. So let's practice a few in the calculator. So this first one, are we looking for an angle or are we looking for a side? So this is looking for an angle, okay? So that means we need to type in second and then sine. okay, and then 0.2835. All right, so we're going to do second sine and then 0.2835, if I remember correctly. And then that's 16.4, so the 4 does not round the 16 up, so it's going to be 16 degrees. Okay? Now, for the next one, are we finding an angle or the side? Well, I'm giving you the angle, so we're not finding an angle, we're finding the side, or the ratio of the sides. Okay? So this you just type straight in. So tangent 43. So you see the difference in these? This first one had a -1. The second one does not, because we're not looking for angles. Okay, we're looking for the sides. So 0.93. And what we just typed in is plain old tangent and then 43. Okay, so for the next one, we are looking for the angle again. So we're going to hit second cosine. And if you notice here, this is just left in fraction form, like your adjacent over your hypotenuse, as opposed to dividing those out and having a decimal. It's the same thing as this one over here. It's just in exact form as opposed to decimal form. So 13/15. So we're going to go second cosine and then 13/15. Oops, I shouldn't have closed that parenthesis right there. Let's delete that. We want to close the parenthesis here. There we go. So now we have 29.9, and that would round to 30 degrees. And so what we typed in was second, then cosine, and then 13 divided by 15. All right, and then this one we're also finding an angle. So we're going to hit second and then tan. I'm just going to do it on my handheld. I think y'all got it. Second, tan, and then 0.4526. So take a minute if you're having trouble with figuring out how to get that. You can YouTube it, or you can just send me a screenshot of your calculator, and I'm happy to tell you how to find it, okay? A lot of people with the Casio, if I'm not mistaken, it's like shift, I believe, and then hit that button. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to actually do problems where it's like the ones that we were doing on our quiz on Friday, okay? So we are going to, instead of having an X as a side, we're now going to be having an X as an angle, okay? Now, instead of using the letter X, I'm going to use that symbol theta, all right? So it says, what is the measure of angle Y? So that's what we're finding. So I could put X here, but instead of putting X, we call angles theta. Okay, so I'm going to put that little symbol. So do you see I've only given you two sides, this one and this one, okay? So I'm not going to use this side right here, which is the hypotenuse. So I am going to, just like we did before, according to this angle, I'm going to label the 100 and the 41, okay? So the 100 is the opposite side, and the 41 is the adjacent side. So which trig function, I'll write it down here, uses O and A, and that's tangent. So we're going to write tangent as our trig ratio. We do not know the angle, so we're going to put theta equals, and then we are going to write the fraction. Oh, excuse me, that's a first. Okay, and so now we're going to write our fraction as either 100 over 41 or 41 over 100, and it depends on the letter. So we go O and then A. Okay, and so now you know exactly how to type that into the calculator. If we're finding an angle, we need to hit the second button first. And then we're going to type in 100 divided by 41. Okay, so let's type that in. Second tan, I'm going to clear all. Second tan, so we want the inverse. And then 100 divided by, was it 100 first? I'm sorry, 100 divided by 41, yes, my brain. All right, then we'll go over, close the parentheses, and then hit enter. All right, so that's 67.7 degrees. So if we're rounding to the nearest whole number, that 0.7 is going to round it to 68. So y is approximately 68 degrees. Okay? So you're going to work these very similarly to the way that we've worked them before. You're going to label the two sides that you know. That'll help you determine the trig function, and then you just type it right in. This one's honestly easier because you don't have to ask, like, do I multiply or divide? You just type it right in. You just have to remember to hit the second button first. All right, let's do a couple more. So here we go. We're looking for an angle. So I'm going to label this side according to that angle. That's my O, and this one is my A. So again, that's tangent. So tangent of x, I did use x here instead of theta, that's fine. And tangent is O and then A, so that's 7/4. So we're going to type in second tan and then 7/4. And so I bet y'all are already seeing, like, these are much easier. You don't have to worry about multiplying, dividing. You literally just type it right in. So that's 60 degrees. Approximately. So notice I have the squigglies for that reason. Okay? It's approximately. All right, let's do another one. So according to this angle, this is our adjacent side, and this is our hypotenuse. So which trig function uses A and H? That's cosine. Cosine x equals, and then it goes A and then H. So A over H. And now we can type it in. I'm just going to do it in my handheld now. So we're going to do second cosine, 3.0 divided by 5.8, and then hit enter. And you should get 58.8, which rounds to 59 degrees. Okay? And now this last one, here's our angle. So we're going, that's our opposite, and this is our hypotenuse. So O and H is sine. So sine of x equals O over H. And then if y'all remember, we should not leave a radical in the denominator. So let's get rid of it. So let's times by root 5. So that'll be sine of x equals 3 root 5 over. We have the 3 and then we have a 5, so it'll be 15. Oh, that simplifies. So then we'll have this simplifies to root 5 over 5. All right, so now we're going to type in second sine of root 5 over 5. All right. See how that just happened? I did not want that divide to go in the radical, so I have to hit the over arrow. Now let's see if it'll work. There we go. There we go. All right, if you're using your handheld, let's see how differently it is. So square root of 5. Okay, so when you do this in the handheld, you have to close the parenthesis after you type square root 5, then divide by 5 and close parentheses. You should still get the same answer, 26.5, so that'll round it up to 27. Let me do a clean piece of paper and let me show you another way you could do this. So if you get to this problem and you're like, oh, I do not want to deal with radicals, you know how from the beginning this was our problem? Sine of x equals 3 over 3 root 5. Let me show y'all a little trick. You can just type this in and get a decimal approximation. Okay, so sine of x equals, or is approximately. So if you type in 3 divided by, and then 3 root 5. Now the problem here is you have to put the 3 root 5 in parentheses, but you can do that. Then it makes it a little easier, and then you can do second sine of 0.4472. Okay, now let's see what happens when I do that and see how it compares to the answer. It gives you exactly the same thing. Okay, so I'm just saying that if you did not want to deal with the radical and like rationalizing the denominator and all that good stuff, you could just turn this fraction into a decimal, and then it makes your life a little bit easier. Okay, I'm about done. I'm gonna show you just how I want you to do these problems. I'm gonna do 2 with you, and then you're gonna do 10, the rest of them. Okay, so this is practice involving what we did last week and what we learned today. So it's a mixed practice. Okay, so if you notice, if you look at number 1, I want you to try to figure out where the unknown is. Is the unknown on number 1 a side or an angle? So if you know, what we're looking for right here is definitely a side. So is this like what we learned today, or is that what we learned last week? That's the old stuff. So you're going to work that like we learned prior. Okay, now look at number 2. The unknown is here. Okay, is that an angle or a side? That is an angle. Okay, so that's like what we learned today. So let's just refresh our memory. I'll do them in 2 different colors so we can distinguish between the 2. Now we're working them similarly. Okay, we're going to go to the angle and we're going to identify the sides. Okay, so this is our O and this is our A. I'm going to go ahead and write SOHCAHTOA at the top. Okay, and so that is going to be O and A, which is tangent, and the box is for you to write the trig function. So tangent 34 degrees equals, and then it goes O over A. And so now you don't have to show this work. You literally just have to type it in the calculator. So my question to you is this multiply or is this divide? You do not have to show this step because honestly, if you do this step incorrectly, you will get your answer incorrect, okay? So showing the equation and then the answer are the 2 most important things. What you do in the calculator will help you get the correct answer. Well, I hope you know that because x is in the numerator, this is going to be a multiply problem. So we're going to do 14 times tangent 34 degrees. And we should get 9.44. Now, notice what it says. If we are finding a side, we want to round to the nearest hundredth. So 2 places. If we're finding an angle, we're going to round it to the nearest degree. Okay? All right, so that helps you with number 1. Now let's look at number 2. According to this angle, we're going to label the sides. So this is our O, and this is our A. Well, look at there. I did not mean for them to both start out as tangent, but that's okay. All right, so this is tangent. Now, instead of writing the angle, we do not know the angle, so it's theta, and then it's O over A. And so now you have to type into the calculator second tan, or shift tan, depending on what calculator you have, and then 23 divided by 37. See, you don't have to ask yourself multiply or divide. You literally just go type it right in. And so your answer is 32 degrees because it's 31.8, which will round it up. All right, so there's an example of each. I hope I've given you enough instruction or guidance that you could try the last 10. All you have to do for your homework on the form, my computer's actually messed up, like frozen right now, so I gotta figure that out. But on the form, all you're gonna have to do is type the answer. That's it. It'll help me know if you have it right or wrong, and I'll go over any that were missed, more than a couple of times. All right, so just try these and do your best with it. Awesome.